But first, Lisa Desjardins takes a closer look at the political turmoil inside Virginia's state capitol and has a preview of tomorrow's State of the Union.
The controversy in Virginia intensifies. There's another government shutdown potentially on the horizon. The political stakes are high. What better time to check in with Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and Tamara Keith of NPR for Politics Monday. All right, let's just jump right into this difficult story. Tam, let's start with the embattled Democratic governor of Virginia. What do these calls for resignations tell us politically, especially about Democrats?
Democrats have taken a position of they have a zero tolerance policy. They have a zero tolerance policy on racism and things that are overtly racist. They also have a zero tolerance policy that they showed, about a year ago when we were talking about all of this Me Too stuff, including with Al Franken. The Democratic leaders made a choice. We are going to be the party that says we can't tolerate this. And that leads to moments like we are in right now.
Amy, what do you see, long-term and short-term, that's happening now?
Right. So the short-term consequences are exactly this, that Democrats are unified. There's no division within at least the Virginia sort of political establishment that of anything other than that Northam should go and resign. And that happened pretty quickly. I mean, some were waiting until after this press conference he held on Saturday. But for the most part, they've been incredibly united. Yeah. Right. The next question is sort of what the long-term implications are. And I think we're at a moment now, we're talking about it socially, about this sort of reckoning that we're in right now with issues of structural racism and sexism. And now we have a political reckoning that's going on. And the thing with a reckoning is that oftentimes it doesn't look very fair or equitable, and it doesn't always work out and in the way in which a lot of people expect it to. And at many moments, there are times when, there are folks who are going to say, well, wait a minute, you held one standard here for this person and held another standard there. And I think that's all going to be the case. And so just in the long term, thinking past the Northam issue, this is going to come up time and time again. The issue of blackface continues to come up. This isn't just something that happened in 1984. Mm-hmm. There was a candidate, not a candidate, Secretary of State in Florida mm-hmm. resigned for a blackface photo from 2005. On college campuses, you hear a story every year about a party or Halloween costume that included blackface. This is a time to have that discussion from a social standpoint. Politically, though, it is going to be messy, and the only way to get to the other side of this is for it to be messy.
Now, Governor Northam reportedly has said that he does not want to be seen as a lifelong racist, and that's one reason he's resistant to resigning. Tam, I'm wondering, that term racist is obviously it's a dividing term in itself. Some supporters and President Trump himself have responded angrily to when he's been called a racist, even as his opponents insist that that's true. Can you take us through kind of the politics of that term racist right now? I know that's a very big question,
yes.
But what does that do?
Well, and issues of race were central to the campaign for governor in 2017. Virginia has been going through a wrenching conversation about race, about a history of racism, about what happened in Charlottesville. And for this to happen in this state at this moment is really particularly difficult, or it really just puts salt in what was an open wound in the state of Virginia.
Could there be political blowback even from those who say, no, this man should be heard?
Anything is possible. Certainly there was blowback as related to Al Franken being pushed out of the Senate, Brett Kavanaugh. It's not clear whether this is in the same realm as those things. And Northam has, that press conference, I don't think anyone could look at that press conference and say, oh, that went well.
The press conference,
that Northam had. What this really points to, as Amy is talking about, is that our politics are not really set up for dealing with difficult things where it's tough, where there's not a good answer. Typically, when the going gets tough, people resign. And then there are never any sort of metrics that are laid out or rules of the road. It becomes whatever that moment is, and then the politics sort of roll over. And so as a country, we have not built a capacity for knowing what the right answer is.
And I want to talk about also lower. We've got the lieutenant governor.
That's right. I was just going to say, so we have the immediate short term, we're talking sort of big picture and longer term thinking about these issues. The immediate short term of a resignation by Ralph Northam would be the ascension of Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax to be governor, who today it came out that there were allegations of sexual assault from 2004. Fairfax has adamantly denied those, saying this was a consensual
And it's anonymous.
relationship.
The accusations are anonymous.
Well, we
right
don't
now.
know
The woman's name.
this woman's name. The Washington Post does. It seems that other news organizations does know her name. She has not responded or come forward. So that's the reality there. The other short-term political consequence here is if Northam decides to stay, then he is hobbled by the fact his entire the entire Democratic establishment has come out and said, we're not behind you. There's a Republican majority in the House and the Senate already. It's a one-term governorship, so you're already a lame duck before, heck, the first 5 minutes of your governorship. And there are legislative elections in 2019, a bunch of Democrats hoping to tip what is a very close House and Senate to Democratic control, obviously would not like to be running with an embattled governor on top of the ticket.
We need to talk about someone else who's an executive in office. That's President Trump. Big speech tomorrow, ladies, a State of the Union. All right, let's start right now. Tam, State of the Union. He's signaled, he's even told reporters that he wants to have a unifying tone, maybe a conciliatory tone. What does that mean? Does that work, briefly?
So the White House often, before his big addresses, I mean, there have only been 2 other joint addresses to a joint session of Congress in this presidency. Before both of them, they previewed a conciliatory tone. And then the speech happened, and the takeaway was not that it was conciliatory. The takeaway was typically he read from the teleprompter, he read the words in front of him, maybe his tone was different than at a rally, but the words were not necessarily all the way through, let's make peace, let's work together. Lots of presidents go into the State of the Union, say they want to work with the other party. Typically, it doesn't quite work out that way, and this is a particularly precarious moment.
And that's
With
what I
the-
wanna
with the
ask you
government
about.
shutdown
in the middle,
still,
in
that's
between
right.
potential shutdowns, Amy,
right.
what does he need to do tomorrow?
Well, and I would argue it's not just doing a bipartisanship with Democrats. It's not only Democrats with which he has disagreement. It's Republicans that he's also going to have to sell on his foreign policy. There's been tremendous amount of consternation among Republicans in the Senate about his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan and Syria, withdraw troops from Afghanistan and Syria. So the president is going to have to both convince Democrats to go along with him on the wall. And if you watched the interview he had with Margaret Brennan of CBS this weekend, this does not look like a man who is interested in finding compromise with Nancy Pelosi. Doesn't seem like he's going to find not on that topic. And on Syria and Afghanistan, again, does not seem like a person who's looking to do compromise within his own party.
Well, happily, we'll have you with us for our special State of the Union coverage tonight. Tam, we can listen to you on NPR. Tamara Keith, Amy Walter, thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Lisa.